Hello, and welcome in again to another episode of Mystery in the Ozarks, the book that I'm writing and reading to you on YouTube as I write it. This is episode 12. I don't have much to say here. I just updated you in the last episode, so I'm not going to do any updates on this one. We're going to get right into the story. Enjoy! Oh, and really quick, today's video has a sponsor. It's bookboomalive.com. They handle all sorts of editing, book coaching, writing coaching, anything you can think of to do with the writing or author industry. They'll help you out. Go check them out. It's bookboomalive.com. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to send me a message. I'll help you out. Okay. By the way, I know we're outside for this one. My wife was sleeping, so I was trying to do it on the porch. Chapter 20. What's next? Ding! The text alert on Jake's phone rang out in his bedroom. I don't want to get up, he thought to himself as he rolled over to grab his phone off the nightstand. He rubbed the sleep out of his eyes while still yawning and checked the phone screen. It was a message from Carol. He yawned, still shaking the sleep out of his brain as he opened the phone and read her text. Hey, dude, can you wake up already? I want to talk about this Greg guy. I can't stop thinking about it all and we need to talk. Oh, the treasure! His thoughts exploded as the sleep left, and now the excitement of the hunt settled back in. Sorry, I'm up now. Want to meet at my house and chat? I'll let Will know as well. Jake quickly replied to the message. He set the phone on the nightstand and got dressed. A few seconds passed, and then his phone dinged again with a new text. He looked over to it, about to pick it up, when he heard a honk come from the driveway. He looked out his bedroom window to see where it came from. Sitting in the driveway was Will's red Saturn and Carol's white Prius. He looked back to the phone to see a message from Carol. He opened it and read it. Yeah, we're already here. I already got Will. Get out here so we can talk. Another loud honk came from the driveway, and Jake quickly made his way through the house and out the front door. Carol and Will both got out of their vehicles as they saw him coming out of the door. Dude, took you long enough, Will teased his cousin. Well, y'all are here a bit early. What is it, maybe 7:30 in the morning? Jake said a bit defensively. That was a very loud car. Well, y'all are here a bit early. What is it, maybe 7:30 in the morning? Jake said a bit defensively. You think this is early? You wouldn't believe how early Carol came to wake me. I held her off for an hour, but that was as long as I could keep her away. She demanded we come and get you up and figure out what the next steps in all of this is. Will replied. So just be happy we weren't here any earlier, he continued. Yeah, we can figure out who woke up who later, Carol chimed in. But for now, can we go chat in the shop, just to make sure no one else can hear us? She said as she pointed at Jake's dad's wood shop across the driveway. Good idea, Jake confirmed back to her. The wood shop was your typical metal building, shaped in a large rectangle with the side walls were white sheet metal, and the roof was a red tin. There was a large roll-up metal garage door on the front with a small regular door off to the right side of it. Inside the shop was littered with tons of small pieces of farm equipment and every tool you could imagine. At the center of the shop was a large wooden-topped work table with 4 stools around the outside. The legs and the frame of the table were made from angle iron that Jake's father and he had welded together. They made their way into the shop and they each took a seat at one of the stools. So what do we do now? Will said after a few awkward, quiet seconds. I don't know, replied Carol. I'm not sure either, added Jake. I want to tell our parents everything, but that Greg guy warned us that if we got him involved, Trent and Linda were capable of hurting them in some way. And he seemed pretty serious. Okay, but who is that Greg guy anyways? He is the caretaker of the Grandmaster. But who is that Greg guy anyway? Will asked. He is the caretaker and Grandmaster of the Masonic Lodge here in Charleston, and I'm pretty sure he knows our parents from high school, Carol interjected. Both boys looked at her, a little shock on their face as to how she knew all of this information. The night before, they had ran away from the cemetery, and the drive home had been pretty quiet, with each of them feeling a bit overwhelmed with all of it. They had agreed not to discuss anything and try to get some rest. Clearly, Carol had been doing some research. Well, I couldn't sleep, and so I decided to do some Googling. I learned a lot about him. Seems his family has always been on the deed to the land for the Masonic Lodge. Deed to the land that the Masonic Lodge owns as well. From what I found, Dr. Kellum donated the land directly to the lodge, but the Gunderson family has been the trustees of the lodge since its inception. What is a trustee? Added Will, a bit confused by the term. It means they handle all the finances and assets owned and maintained by the lodge, but they don't own any of it. The lodge does. It's a little confusing, but it means his family has been in total control of that place since it opened. And if Jesse James was a Mason or working with them in any way, I think it might be the best place to start. He seems like an upstanding citizen from everything I've seen online about him. But how do we know we can trust him? Jake thought out loud. I don't think we can just yet. But I do think that him helping us get away from those two crazy people last night, and the knowledge he may have to help us understand this whole thing more, is worth at least giving him a chance to explain his side. And then we make a decision that we can trust him, or we call the cops and our parents. What do you two think? Carol said. The boys looked at each other, both still in a little bit of doubt, but also agreeing that what she said does make the most sense. Sounds good to me. What about you, Will? Jake replied. Will looked at his cousin with doubts in his eyes, but mustered the courage and said, yeah, okay. All right, then it's settled. We're going to go to the lodge to meet up with Greg and see what all he knows. Jake confirmed back to both of them. Carol and Will both agreed, and they all made their way out to the cars in the parking lot. I'm riding with Will, Carol. We don't like the same music, Jake said with a smile as he headed towards Will's car. Hey, Taylor Swift is amazing and you're just an uncultured swine, she replied with a smile as she got into her Prius. The two cars headed out down the driveway and towards town. Chapter 21. Pancakes. A pancake breakfast? Will's voice rang out as they turned into the parking lot for the Charleston Masonic Lodge. He was looking out the driver's side window, reading the old black and white letter sign that spelled out the words for him. I guess they're having a breakfast, Jake replied as Will put the car into park, and they both began to unbuckle and get out. Jake stood up out of the vehicle and stretched his arms and legs out from being in the cramped little car. He turned around as he did and surveyed the surroundings. The Masonic Lodge building itself is a 2-story brick building, the bricks being much lighter in color, showing their age. But other than that, it was a very simple-looking square building. The second story had 2 large windows centered on the front and 2 large doors at the front on the bottom floor. There was a large Masonic Lodge crest on the front between the 2 windows, just above the doors. To the left of the building was a massive oak tree and several around the grounds on the back as well. Those are huge oak trees, Jake thought to himself as he looked around. Wait, Mason's oak protects it. Could it mean an oak tree at the Masonic Lodge? Do you want tots with that? A robotic voice cut into his thoughts, surprising him and crashing his thought train he had going. Jake looked in the direction of the voice and was quickly reminded that they were right in the middle of a busy intersection in town. The voice was coming from the Sonic that's next to the Masonic Lodge. He chuckled to himself as he realized this. Hey, Will, you drive way too fast. Carol's voice rang out of her open window as she pulled into the spot next to him. Yeah, you're just too slow, Will hollered back. No, you were going like 50 and a 40. That's way too fast. Carol grumbled to herself as she put the car in park and got out. Hey, Jake! Greg's voice bellowed from the front of the building. Greg was standing at the front door waving at them. Another man walked up and Greg turned and was shaking hands with them as the person was leaving the building. The 3 looked at each other and all 3 nodded in agreement and made their way to the front door of the building to talk to Greg. Have a nice day and catch some fish this weekend, Greg said to one of the people leaving as they walked up. Hey, y'all, thank you so much for coming. I know this is a lot to take in and crazy, Greg said to them in a more hushed tone. Yeah, it is a lot, Carol replied a little bit sarcastically and loud. Why should we trust you at all? Yeah, I'm not sure why we can't just tell our parents, or even better, the police, Will replied with a little frustration as well. Hey, that's fair. I completely understand your worries, and frankly, I'm happy you are as vigilant as you are. But how about we make a deal? Let me tell you everything I know about JJ. He paused for a second, waiting for them to understand his code. And the stuff he may have left behind, and then you can decide what we do next. I will not stop you from telling anyone at that time. I just want to make sure you have all the information before you make a choice that's undoable. Greg paused and waited for a reply. I believe him, Jake said, breaking the silence after a few seconds. Have a good day, Greg's voice cut in as he waved away another man leaving the building. The 3 treasure hunters had to step back a little to let the man through. They all 3 awkwardly waved as well, not really sure what to do. Sorry, we had a pancake breakfast this morning and it just ended, Greg said quickly to explain all the people being there. I don't necessarily believe him, but I also want to know more about all of this. I don't see any harm in letting him tell us whatever he is wanting to. Carol chimed in. Carol and Jake looked to Will, who had still had a very frustrated look on his face. Will, I truly don't see any harm in at least letting him tell us what he has to say. I promise that once he tells us, the choice will be completely yours if we call our parents. 100%, no question, no anything. I will not stop you. Deal? Jake said as he reached out his hand for his friend to shake, confirming this deal. Will looked to Jake square in the eyes, trying to make sure his friend was going to hold to this deal. Will looked Jake square in the eyes, trying to make sure his friend was going to hold to this deal. Will replied with some annoyance as he shook Jake's hand. All right. Well, I have to clean up from breakfast, and you just need to put some tables down in the meeting hall. But would y'all mind if we talked while I did that? We also wouldn't be out here wandering where wandering ears can hear us, Greg piped up. Jake looked to the other two, who both returned glances of, yeah, that makes sense. And he replied, sure, that works for us. Lead the way. Great, it's just this way. Also, a little fun fact about this room we're heading to. It was built in the 1870s and is one of the oldest rooms in Charleston, Greg added excitedly as he led the way into the open front doors of the lodge. Carol smacked Jake on the arm when Greg said built in the 1870s and gave him a look of excitement. She quickly followed Greg into the building with Jake and Will right behind her.